OLTD 505 Learning Summary. Hello, I'm Jillian Astron, an OLTD 505 student at Vancouver Island University, British Columbia, Canada. OLTD is the Online Learning and Teaching Graduate Diploma, and it's offered fully online. OLTD 505 is about open educational resources, or as we've referred to them throughout this course, OERs. Our instructor is Alec Rose, and his Twitter handle is right here. At the beginning of the 6-week course, I created a mind map of what I thought of as open education and big ideas. At the end of the 6-week course, I created another mind map to show just how many more ideas I have now about open education and open educational resources specifically as well. This is a small visual of what I've learned throughout the 6 weeks. You can visit my course blog here, where you can review my reflections in their entirety. We don't have time for that right now, but hopefully you find some time later to check it out. What I've created here, a webquest that I'd like to take you through, starting with the vast world of open educational resources. From online textbooks, video recorded lectures, YouTube clips, web-based textual materials designed for independent study, animation and simulations, digital diagrams and graphics, some MOOCs, some assessment materials, PowerPoint-sized PDF files of lecture notes. We use all of these throughout our teaching, or maybe some of us do. I never really considered that they were all open educational resources. When I thought of open education, I thought of YouTube and I thought of online sources, but I never really considered the vast of what was out there. One thing I want to show you is the online textbooks. OpenStax is an online textbook site that to me is just fascinating. You can search by subject, higher education, K-12. Right now I want to just show you a textbook that I found. When I was first exploring OpenStax, I went to the math section because during my undergrad, I spent a lot of money on math textbooks. I noticed the Introductory to Statistics text, and I thought I'd view it online. The site is so organized that in the top left here, you can open and see the contents of the book, just as if you were flipping to the front of your textbook. All of the subjects, everything's organized. Let's take a look at normal distribution. The standard normal distribution. This is one thing I remember quite a bit of. Z-scores, normal distribution chart. I was blown away by all the different examples and exercises with the option to show solutions that this textbook offers. I actually think it's better than my over $200 textbook that I purchased during my undergrad. If you wanted to use this as a professor, at the very bottom, there's different tabs to either download the page, find out the history. There's a tab that explains how to give attribution to this work, and any other information you're also looking for. Here we have the Creative Commons license. Another really great resource that I thought was pretty cool about OER is some of the MOOCs, in specific Coursera. I haven't had a chance to review any of the courses yet. However, I'm maybe a little bit blown away just by the shininess of all of the high-level universities that are sponsoring this. I can't help but just think that there is a ton of really, really interesting learning here. Here's a link to my personal learning journey blog. When I started OLTD, we talked a tiny bit about OERs, so I made a space where I could start gathering some of the OERs that I thought were interesting. For example, here, our instructor shared a list of OERs and MOOCs. So now I have this list that I can review at a later date. One thing that Tony Bates says is in order to be open and educational resource, though, they must be freely available for at least educational use. And for educational use, I think accessibility matters. OERs are accessible in a number of ways. With our phone, we can connect to our personal learning network via social media or on the go and share different resources we find. On tablets, it's easy to browse scholarly articles and clip to Evernote for a project at a later date. And then at our home computer, we can sit down and complete large projects and still have access to everything that we found throughout the day, any OERs, because accessibility has made it so that we can connect through all of our devices. Tony Bates explains that the 5 core principles of OERs are reuse, remix, retain, revise, and redistribute. If you're a creator, to protect your rights as an author of an OER usually means publishing under a Creative Commons or other open license. Throughout the course, I took a long look at Creative Commons. The Creative Commons allows you to choose how you want your work to be shared. How the 5 principles of OER apply to your work depends on how you license it. Here's just a little snippet about the Creative Commons. What our licenses do. The Creative Commons copyright license and tools forge a balance inside the traditional all rights reserved setting that copyright law creates. Our tools give everyone from individual creators to large companies and institutions a simple, standardized ways to grant copyright permissions to their creative work. The combination of our tools and our users is a vast and growing digital commons, a pool of content that can be copied, distributed, edited, remixed, and built upon, all within the boundaries of copyright law. If you have a chance, check out this video. It's really informative and fun. About the licenses. There's 6 different Creative Commons licenses. The license that's the most accommodating is just attribution. People can do whatever they want with your work as long as they say that you were the original creator. The most restrictive license is non-commercial, no drives. Simply, people can only download your work and share it with others here in its original form, and there can be no use of it commercially. The Creative Commons has a great way for you to understand what kind of license you're putting on your work. So they take you right through from deciding what your license features will be, selecting your license, and then helping others attribute you by giving attribution information. This tool is something great that the Creative Commons has put in place for people to be able to share their work in a legal and informative way. The Creative Commons is in thanks to the founders, James Boyle, Hal Abelson, and Lawrence Lessig. Lawrence Lessig we learned quite a bit about, and I learned that he credited Aaron Swartz with helping to design the code layer. Here Lessig and Aaron Swartz, a number of years back in 2002, are having probably a very intelligent discussion. You can see here, Aaron Swartz is a very young boy. That's because he was only 14 when he helped work on the Creative Commons. Sadly, this is a remembering of Aaron Swartz, as he tragically died at the age of 26. I became a bit obsessed with the story of Aaron Swartz, and really was interested in how Lawrence Lessig and Aaron Swartz were connected. Lessig was first introduced in OLTD 505 through his TED Talk, Laws That Choke Creativity. I really encourage you to watch this TED Talk as it challenges the perspective of copyright and copyright law. His point here is that technology gives us the opportunity to revive content, and by recreating it to say something else different. Using Creative Commons, we can do just that, and still give credit to the original source, writer, artist, filmmaker, scholar, whatever it may be. Swartz and Lessig were not only colleagues, but friends who were driven by the same passion to see content readily accessible in the public domain. Swartz was focused on scholarly works for the benefit of research. To him, it was common sense to share work for means of collaboration and deeper learning. We watched the documentary The Internet's Own Boy, which was an impactful story of a riveting young man who was gone too soon. Swartz's passion for open content led him into a federal investigation where he was in all kinds of trouble. I can only assume that the amount of stress he was experiencing is what pushed him to take his own life. Throughout our open education resource course, we talked a lot about, should people be really open to this concept? Why are some people not open to it? And there was a lot of differing opinions. Here's a link to some of my previous thoughts on my week 4 reflection. I was all for open source movement. In Dean Shersky's video, The Moral Imperative, he discusses how today our problems are more about vetting and filtering information and ideas to find the stuff that's most relevant to our students. I really thought that this was interesting in the sense that in our day now, there's so much information, and why would we all be starting at square one? Why wouldn't we build upon resources that are already available to us and then share out what we have? From there, teachers can always be expanding and creating better resources will be more readily available. Another great point I thought was from Derek Silver's short video titled Obvious to You, Amazing to Others, was the concept of sometimes you don't really think about what your thoughts might mean to other people or what somebody else is thinking and how it could connect to your thoughts and build something great. So I think the main idea here is that if we're connected within our personal or professional learning communities or networks, PLNs, these ideas can be shared, and those opportunities can be there for great resources to be built. However, Tony Bates explains the bad and ugly, and it made me understand that it is good. Open education resources really are a good thing, but I can also understand why some people are concerned. One of the main points that I can connect with is the vetting of information and the scholarly articles, and making sure that they've been approved and that they really are a true resource that you should be using. With open resources, anybody can post anything, and it is up to the user to just make sure that they're doing their due diligence. So as much as Tony Bates talks about the good, bad, and ugly, I think with the researcher's due diligence, you really can sift through the bad and the ugly. A quote from Bates is, "Open educational resources do have an important role to play in online education, but they need to be properly designed and developed within a broader learning context that includes the critical activities needed to support learning." What stands out to me here is properly designed, and open resources needs to be easy to use, developed within a broader learning context. If an open educational resource is only designed for one very specific use, it's not going to be that helpful if somebody doesn't have that exact same use. However, if it's developed with a broader learning context, people can put their own spin on it and use it in their own classroom or educational purpose. And that the resource needs to include the critical activities. So what exactly needs to be done in order to support learning? What are the activities that really support learning and make it something that's not just open knowledge, but a way to do open learning? So I really think that these 3 points, developing within a broader learning context, properly design, and include the critical activities, are a big part of getting on to the open source movement. So how will I start? What can I do to be a valuable part of the open source movement rather than just another loose end? I think where I've started is Google Apps for Education, also known as GAF. Google Classroom is really interesting. I recently was part of a book club where we discussed all the different things you can do with the platform. It's a platform for which you can build an OER. This allows for the content to be developed within a broader learning context. I think this because the way that you design your Google Classroom doesn't have to be for just one use. And actually, if you're only using it for one subject, it kind of defeats the purpose. The Google Apps and extensions are a big part of Google Classroom. It would be hard to do a lot of things without them. They allow you to properly design a course, and they're all shareable apps and extensions. We may as well take a look at them. When you have a Google profile, you can look at all the different Google apps. So ones that I really like to use are YouTube, Maps, Google Doc, Google Slide, and Google Drive. Google Plus for creating community, and Google Hangouts for having face-to-face chats. Here are some of the Google extensions. You can access these through the Chrome Web Store. Many of these are productivity and organizational. However, I think they're all very helpful to teaching, as it is very important to be organized. I think it's important that we start teaching students how to use these resources. And to me, these are open resources. These are pieces of software that are free. Lastly, in order to support open educational resources, an open source movement, open education, I think one of the main points that I've learned from open education resources is that it's not about just the content online. It's not about simply writing a blog. It's not simply about sharing a PowerPoint slide. It's about connecting with other educators online and building resources together, taking a resource and making it stronger, making it better for deeper learning. Thanks for taking the time to go through my webquest with me. If you'd like to look at it on your own, there's a link to the PowerPoint slide just below. I hope you enjoy. Further, if you want to connect, you can reach me at Twitter on the handle @JillianAstron. Follow me on YouTube at Jillian Astron, or find me in Google+, Jillian Astron. This slide presentation is a special thanks to all the people who made and released these awesome resources for free. Presentation template by Slides Carnival. Check them out. It's a great way to save yourself some time and have an amazing resource to share.